Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to talk about the Himalayan crisis. Now, several roads and over 600 houses in Uttarakhand's Joshimath, which is also known as the gateway town to Badrinath temple, have developed cracks over the past few weeks, causing panic and protests among the local population. While a high-level meeting of officials from central government, state government and agencies like NDMA, GIS and NIH took stock of the situation on Sunday, the Supreme Court declined an urgent hearing on a plea relating to the incident on Tuesday. Based on recommendations by an expert panel tasked by the centre to assess the sinking of the ground surface in Joshimath, the authorities have begun demolition process of at least 2 hotels there. Affected families are also being provided shelter by the state government and other assistance. According to experts, Joshimath city has been built on an ancient landslide material, making it rest on a deposit of sand and stone, not rock, which does not have the high load-bearing capacity. This makes the area extremely vulnerable to ever-increasing infrastructure and population burden. So to further understand the reasons behind the situation in Joshimath and how can it be tackled and lessons to be learned from here onwards as far as Himalayas is concerned, we have with us a distinguished panel of experts today. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Dr. Yashpal Sundaryal is joining us. He is Professor and Head of the Department of Remote Sensing and GIS at HNB Gadbal University. We are also joined by Mr. Sudhir Krishna. He is former Secretary with the Ministry of Urban Development. And Urmi Goswami, a senior journalist, is also joining us, so keeps a close watch on all such issues. Welcome, all of you, to Sansad Television. I'll begin with you, Urmi, and let's start by taking stock of the situation on the ground. What's happening there? More than 600 houses developing crack, several roads as well, some hotels also. Looks like the government machinery is there on the ground trying to assess and control the situation. But what is happening right now?
Well, basically what's happening is, as you said, there is an order to demolish the 2 hotels. There's evacuation of people that's happening. Of course, the community wants to stay together, as you would expect, because they're after all a community. And basically we are trying to dismantle everything that has been built in that city, in that town, for the last 50 or more years. The problem is that the authorities are now moving at a speed as if an event has happened. But the fact of the matter remains that it is an event that has been in the making for more than 50 years. Mm-hmm. And I think that is where the problem lies. This is not something that creeped up on us or just suddenly struck us. It's not an extreme weather event, like a cloud burst. It is basically a problem that has been in the making. You mentioned about studies. We know now everybody knows about the Mahesh Chandra Mishra committee, the 18-member committee that in 1976 was appointed in 1976, that said very clearly that there should be no new building in Joshimath. You should look to replanting because of the wide deforestation that had happened. And now, so many years later, and in between, there have been studies. I mean, the Uttarakhand Disaster Management Authority has studies of its own. Not to mention other academic studies. There are studies about risk reduction that the Disaster Management Authority has done, the State Disaster Management Authority has done. The tragedy is that, all that information, all that knowledge exists, not just, and also you had activists working in the area who were warning you about, not just about projects, about illegal sand mining, about deforestation, about excessive building. And nobody listened. Okay. So, what's happening now, it seems like we're trying to act, but the fact is that we did this damage, and now whatever unrolling you're doing is not going to fix it. It's like Humpty Dumpty. You can't really put it back together. Okay. At least not immediately. Let's
try and understand this a bit more scientifically as to what can be done, what has happened as well, and some of those points I'll take it along to Professor Sundaryal here. Professor Sundaryal, 2 aspects. One, do you agree with what Urmi was saying, that this is a crisis which was in making for quite some time now. That's one. And two, how serious is the crisis? And it's just not about Joshimath. We're looking at Joshimath, but there are reports coming in about, similar cracks developing in several houses in Kedarnath as well. So other cities also perhaps have this problem.
Yes, I'm agreed with you. And Karnaprayag is another city from where we are getting the information that cracks are being developed in the houses. And we have many other locations. I can mention the Gopeshwar, which is the district headquarters of the Chamoli district. We have the Guptakasi, which is in route of the Kedarnath temple. So the entire Uttarakhand or entire Himalaya is highly sensitive, and all the villages located in particularly Uttarakhand Himalaya in the middle slope of the valleys, and they are located on the paleo landslides. Coming back to the seismicity of the area, Joshimath is not only located, as you mentioned, on the paleo landslides, old landslides, but seismically also this falls under the zone 5th. And recurring earthquake activities are not such type of activity which will stop for a while. Continuously 1, 2, and 2.5 magnitude earthquakes are being generated but we cannot feel that. So we have another hot spots. We have our HNV Garhwal University in the Srinagar Valley. And as Urmil, I don't know the full name of the...
She's Urmi Goswami.
Urmi Goswami mentioned that mining is sand mining is a very big problem. A few days back, Uttarakhand government told that now they have issued the direction that no mining will be carried out on the riverbed from the bridge 1 kilometer upstream and 1 kilometer downstream. But mining is continuously going on, mining activities on the river Alaknanda, and our HNV Garhwal University, which is located in the Srinagar Valley, that is under threat. So we will have to understand that what type of the policies the government is implementing, and I will say that it is actually the Joshimath incident is totally failure of the governance.
Okay. But are you saying, Professor Sundrial, that the Joshimath incident is a result of combination of factors, one being illegal activities like sand mining in the area, unchecked deforestation, increased load of population and illegal construction as well in those areas, perhaps along with developmental projects also. Is this all combined which has led over the years to this situation?
I will put number one on the illegal construction. Mishra committee said that no RCC structure should be made on that sensitive land of the paleo landslide. And second thing, our planning, we don't have any building codes. We have not made any policies what type of the construction should be made. It is seismically active, it is climatically sensitive, and if government has not framed any policy and any building codes for all these, then this type of the disaster will happen in Uttarakhand, and we are seeing it from 2001, then 2012, then 2013, and 2021, and this time the Joshimath calamity we are discussing.
Okay. Let me bring in Mr. Sudhir Krishna here as well. He's been patiently listening to both the other panelists as well. Mr. Krishna, as you heard both Professor Sundrial and Urmi pointing out to various factors which might have led to, this crisis which we are facing right now in Joshimath, and perhaps, at a smaller level in some other towns nearby in Uttarakhand. Now, the question is, over the years, there have been policies which have been put in place. There has been research which has been brought out. There have been expert opinion which has been given. But despite all that, we have reached a place or a situation like the one which we face in Joshimath. Where have we erred?
I think the Problem lies in mismatch between the research recommendations and the policies, and also between the policies and the policy implementation. There also seems to be a need for closer connect between the local issues and the national issues. Now, this area, Himalayan area, so far we have heard much about landslides. But land subsidence is a phenomenon which also needs serious attention for the Himalayan region. Land subsidence is a global phenomenon also. Jakarta is also sinking, and they have analyzed many cities are sinking because of bore wells. Too much of exploitation of underground water leads to a vacuum in the soil and leads to sinking when you put heavy structure on top of soil, which becomes weak because of exploitation or the imbalance in the subsoil area because of sucking out of the water in a large quantity from continuously. That also becomes prone to sinking. So whereas these Jakarta and Mexico and many other cities are sinking, but they have a different issue. Himalayan area is a different situation because here the soil is very loose, as other panelists have observed, and also it is in seismic zone also. So this is, the research studies have observed that, but we don't have a solid regional plan. So what we require urgently is to prepare a regional plan for the Himalayan area and sub-regional plan in a micro-zonation base. You make small zones, study the geography, geology, the geohydrology, and all the parameters and of the local area, and then prepare a plan specific to that and prepare the development control regulations.
Okay.
What has happened is Uttarakhand was part of Uttar Pradesh. So the Uttar Pradesh laws are still applicable to in a great measure adopted by the Uttarakhand administration over the last so many years. But Uttarakhand needs its own laws, its own rules, which have to be seen, in a zero-based budgeting kind of thing. From ground level, they have to study the research reports and make the regional plans for local development. And it is not only buildings are cracking, even roads are cracking. It is a situation which is very grave, actually, much graver than mere building cracking. Because if the roads are also cracking, then we find that it is not the building construction alone in the local area. It is the entire area which is impacted.
Okay.
And sooner, I expect that more damage would come to the structures. So it is high time to stop all the. And lastly, I would say that there is a rule, there is a provision in the Uttarakhand Planning and Development Act, Urban Planning and Development Act, which says that nothing in provision of this act no provision of this act shall apply to central government programs and projects. So that is also not a good idea. It was done with a good intention before, I guess. Intention was probably that central government projects have a national impact and therefore state laws and central government machinery will understand local issues by themselves because very strong arrangement. I think we have to rethink that. The central and state government should be a joint partner, like metro rails. These are generally owned by central and state government.
Okay.
So these projects should be owned jointly by the central and state government, so that state governments feel responsible for the project end to end. They've got authority and responsibility both. Now it is like NTPC project means central government project. It should not be so. It should be central and state joint project at end to end, and local government should also be associated in a bigger way than before. So these all put together, a new strategy of governance is required now for Himalayan area.
Okay. Urmi, do you agree that a complete overhaul of policy plans based on the region's topography, its eco-sensitivity, and when we're talking about the Himalayan region specifically, of course, we will have to look and take into consideration several factors, which is not the case perhaps when we are making plans for areas which lie in plains, as Mr. Krishna was referring to. It can't be one size fits all.
Of course, the problem is that we can talk about plans, we can talk about micro plans. The fact is that when you had the National Climate Action Plan, there is a whole mission on the Himalayan region. I don't think there's anybody who hasn't repeated these lines about how the Himalayan region is a fragile ecosystem. The question is not how many times we repeat that line, but what we do with it. The fact that somebody was a collector from Garhwal was appointed to head a committee in 1976 to look into the issue of sinking subsidence in Joshimath means at least there is some awareness somewhere within the administrative setup. What did you do with this report? The real problem is that we have the expertise, the experts do their work, and then it gathers dust. And it's true about, projects, every project has to have an environmental impact assessment. In most cases, these environmental impact assessment reports are a bit of a joke. They're not done seriously. They don't have the requisite data because we have suddenly privileged speeding through getting permissions for a project to actually equated it with skipping steps. Not putting red tape that prevent fast clearance of projects is one thing, and skipping steps that actually endanger people is a different thing. And we need to now understand that environmental protection is a critical part of economic growth and economic development.
Okay.
And once you do that, then those systems get put in place. Again, the expertise exists. I can reel off reports that exist. The question is, are the reports going to just gather dust there? Two, authorities need to start putting in place, proper codes. Professor Sondral mentioned about how there are no codes. The fact is that you build in the Himalayas the same way you build in Delhi, which is why when you go up to a Mussoorie or a Shimla, they look very much like Delhi. Can you imagine then actually on such an seismic zone, and in a landslide prone area, you're building the same way you build on the plains? It doesn't make sense, right? It defies common sense. So why is that happening? You can have all the codes in the world. First of all, we need the codes. Then you need proper implementation
of those codes.
And then the other thing that we need, and we forget this, is about discipline.
Okay.
Today, there is so much traffic going up to the hills. Everybody gets into the cars and goes up there. Why is that? Can that area actually take so much traffic? I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, it's not about not allowing any kind of traffic, but you have to have limitations. You have to work out new forms of transport then, which suit the demands of the area. So yes, I agree that we need to study the area better. But what I'm also saying that a lot of the studies already exist. A lot of the expertise already exists. You have Professor Sondral sitting right there. Now, the question is, how many committees is he a part of? How involved is he in creating the policy? That is the question we need to ask. Are we actually making policy the right way? Or is somebody else who thinks they know better making policies for us?
Okay. Let's bring in Professor Sundaryal again here. Professor Sundaryal, one question, but, in two parts. The question is, what needs to be done? What should we do now? And this in two parts. One, in short term, to deal with the crisis which is already staring at us in Joshimath, what should be done? And two, in the longer run, as you were also pointing out earlier, both the other panelists are also referring to it, that we need to go ahead and take a look at the larger picture and approach it in the manner in which the specific situation demands.
Okay. Actually, as Urmi Goswami mentioned, that we have lot of the recommendation in scientific reports how to deal with this such type of the crisis. But I will again mention that for implementation, we need honesty, dedication, and determination from the government.
Okay.
And that is lacking in Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand came into existence in 2000.
Okay, but what should be, Professor Sundaryal? Professor Sundaryal, just 1 second. The direct question is, what should be done in Joshimath now to limit the scope of the crisis or the scope of the danger which is facing us? Scientifically speaking, what is it that we can do to limit the damage?
First of all, we will have to regularize the drainage system. No proper drainage system is there. Number one. Number two, the houses which have got cracks, all those buildings should be demolished. And the people are being shifted in the Gauchar and somewhere People Koti. They will not stay there because they have their agriculture field nearby the Joshimath area. So it is not a permanent solution. You are shifting people from Joshimath to other places. In 2021, what happened? The Rani village is also sinking. And when they tried to shift the Rainy village in another place, the villager of that place was angry that why the Rainy people is occupying our land. So we will have to think seriously for these all issue, and as we will have to make such policies that which can protect our this fragile land in future.
And the people residing there as well. Mr. Krishna, as both Urmi and Professor Sundrial are pointing out that having policies in place is one very important part, but then implementing them honestly on the ground is also a very intricate part, an integrated aspect here. How do you think we should move ahead from here onwards? Mistakes, of course, have been created. That is why we are staring at this crisis. But from here onwards, what are the focus areas which we should work upon?
Well, one thing is to sensitize the administration or authorities about the local issues, environmental issues and ecological issues of the area. At times, the people who are handling this may not be aware, particularly when the projects become central project, like the environment impact assessment report of this Tapovan Vishnugad project of NTPC. I was going through that 2004. It is hardly talking of land subsidence danger. It talks of so much on water pollution, water quality, and marine aquaculture, impact on aquaculture, and things like that, soil erosion on the project site, not exactly this land subsidence issue for the entire area. So perhaps those who did the environment impact assessment and assessed that were not, sensitized. So maybe a lot of sensitization is required for those who are handling the Himalayan area. There should be a separate attention given. It is good that Uttarakhand has become a separate state. And as I said before, that all central projects should not remain 100% central projects. A time has come to make this a partnership of central and state government joint projects, and local authority, local government panchayats and the local planning authorities should be given, more importance in deciding the matter. Today they are simply, as rules are, the local planning authority just has to be brushed aside. If a central project comes, a national highway comes, means it is not that the local planning authority can have. As such, local planning authorities are very weak, feebly. So we have to strengthen the local planning authority with more people, qualified people of higher level of authorities, officers, and with proper, technology and training and so on. So a lot of training is required, a lot of awareness is required among the people who are administering the area at all levels, central government, state government, and sub-state level, district level, sub-district level, and a coordination among them. It should not be that, I exclude you. It should be inclusive framework is required. It's a very delicate situation has come now. And secondly, this unbridled, my other panelists rightly said, unbridled tourism, it is happening because local areas don't have tourism facilities or tourism structures, Everybody from plains is rushing to same Shimla, same Nainital, from Delhi and surrounding area. People have got now lot more money and lot more vehicles, and they want to go out for, wherever, where can they go? Go only to Shimla, only to Nainital, only to nearby places.
Okay.
So every city we should have a tourism plan. Every city should have neighborhood places where you can go for enjoyment and feel happy and proud of your neighborhood.
Okay.
Now you are proud of your neighborhood, you don't know where to go. If you are in Gurgaon, if you are in Delhi, you cannot be visiting the same monuments again and again, same temples over and over again, off and on. So more such places should come, and we should restrict people every time. In fact, Switzerland, I remember, Switzerland had refused to host Olympics once because they said we do not want to have so many visitors to our place, small towns. Switzerland is like Uttarakhand area and Kashmir area only.
Okay.
So we also should refuse people. We should limit. Every city should limit. We should by law make that a panchayat will decide how many visitors can come, subject to concurrence of the planning authority of the area.
Okay.
So I think of the administrative arrangements would definitely pave the way for a more sustainable development of the area and the localities.
Okay, fair enough. Those are some potent suggestions coming in there. Thank you so much, Mr. Krishna, Professor Sundrial, and Urmi as well for sharing your views and insight with us and our viewers. As our expert panelists were pointing out, the reasons behind what we are facing, the kind of crisis which we are facing in Joshimath town in Uttarakhand. And of course, there are several factors which have contributed over the years to this crisis, to the situation in Joshimath, and the way this situation can be tackled. Various policy changes, overhauling of various laws, bylaws, but ultimately it also comes down to ensuring an honest implementation of those policies on the ground to ensure that we protect the fragile ecosystem in Himalayas and prevent such Himalayan crisis in the future. We'll come back again with a different topic. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.